Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, another SIBC broadcast. Of course, what else would you be doing with your Friday mornings? Of course, it is just me here today. Chris is away. He's filming another series for you, which is going to be very exciting. It's going to be very clever. So you'll have to keep an eye out for that when that eventually comes out. So he's unfortunately busy. He's away at the moment. So it's just me, unfortunately. Last week you had just Chris, and now it's just me. But we'll be back together next week, back doing our usual thing. So it is going to be a great broadcast for you. But first of all, that live cam. I mean, come on, something special is happening there. You will have noticed it's been a pretty active morning because those chicks just hatched a couple hours ago. So this is a webcam that comes live to us from Australia, from the Victorian Peregrine project in Melbourne. These, I think there might be potentially 3 chicks here. I haven't quite got a good look at them yet. Have just literally hatched, and there was a little bit of food you might have saw earlier that the adult there was, the female was picking up and having a little nibble at, but she's doing really well so far incubating those chicks because, of course, they've only just hatched, which means they are incredibly vulnerable. So it takes peregrine falcon chicks about 40 days from hatch to fledglings when they start, flapping around and become incredibly active and start moving off exploring their local area. But at hatching, they are so vulnerable. So they weigh only between about 35 to 40 grams. They're quite damp, they're quite pink, and their eyes are closed, except, of course, when they start begging for food. So the female is going to be doing a really, keeping a very close eye on them, being very close by all of the time to make sure that they're protected from the elements there. Of course, at the moment in Australia, it is the summertime, so we've gone over to the southern hemisphere to look at the breeding birds over there because, of course, all of ours have kind of moved on and they're doing their wintering behaviour, their wintering things. So it's great to see a snapshot of the other side of the world, and it'll be about 5 days' time that the chicks there, their weight will have doubled, and they'll be sitting up with their eyes open. They won't have yet had their second coat of feathers come through. That will take a little bit longer. It starts kind of coming through about day 6. But there's going to be a lot of activity going on in this nest, so it's really worth keeping an eye on it. And you can do this at by Googling Victorian Peregrine Project. This was actually a live camera that was suggested to us by one of the viewers, by Karen Gee. So thank you so much, Karen, for this suggestion, because we've been really enjoying watching this nest and all the events unfold. And of course, to keep the upkeep of these live cameras, which have really helped, I think, get us through lockdown, you can help support them, and you can do so to help support this one at birdlife.org.au/donate. If you type Victorian Peregrine Project in the comment box, all the donations will go directly to the upkeep of that camera as well. Because I think these live cameras have been really special for us. We've been able to get an intimate look at these amazing birds throughout the course of lockdown. It's connected us together at a time when we've been isolated. So it's been great to kind of get a glimpse of inside the nest, as we say. And we've got more of that, I have to say, coming up later on in the programme. We're going to be catching up with one of our favourite stories from lockdown. We're going to be going back to Birds of Poole Harbour. If you can remember a few weeks ago, well, months ago now, we were looking at CJ7, who was one of the ospreys at the Birds of Poole Harbour project, and we were keeping everything crossed. I had my toes, I had my fingers, and everything crossed that I could possibly have crossed, that she would successfully breed this year for the first time in over 200 years in the south of England. It wasn't, of course, the year for her, but we're going to have an update and kind of an overview of that story coming up, which I have to say is fantastic. So you'll have to wait and have a listen to that. What else have we got coming? Well, something really cool, actually. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to really geek out. It's going to be great. We've got a live camera again. This one is something a bit different. Again, we're going to Australia. We're going to Phillip Island, where we're going to go and see little penguins coming in from the sea into their burrows. So that isn't happening just yet. They're still out foraging around, doing their penguin-y things, and they'll be coming back onto the beach probably, I don't know, it's normally about 9:30 our time that they start coming in. So as soon as action starts taking hold there, we'll quickly snip over and we'll have a look at all these penguins coming back. It's the largest colony of little penguins. I'm really excited about that. what else have we got coming? Of course, our soapbox. This week is a really important one. We're going to be talking about pheasant shooting. It's quite timely. It's a really important issue that I think, you know, we need to be discussing more, because we need to think cohesively and collectively to come up with solutions for these issues. We know that there are many issues surrounding things like pheasant shooting, and we need to address it. So there's going to be a video coming for you about that and the impact not only of pheasant shooting itself, but also on how pheasant shooting impacts local flora and fauna, things like adders. And of course, the one and only Jack is going to be back to tell us about his second Dinosaur too. So that's going to be really good. So it's going to be a jam-packed SIBC programme for you this morning. Firstly, though, I have to offer a sincere apology. Last week I wasn't here. I was in Scotland. I went off-grid for a few days and went round in a van around the coast looking for wildlife, and had a really, really lovely time. It was nice to kind of be away and get out in the wilderness a little bit after lockdown, and after Chris and I obviously finished writing our book, so took the time to kind of go off and explore a bit. But I did a little video for you, of which I set Chris off on one. This is where the apology comes in, because I know better. I know if I start talking about World 2 air warcrafts that he's going to go off on a rampage about it, and he did. So I set him up, and I think most everyone enjoyed it. So it's honestly, his mind is incredible. I often say to him, I'm going off on one now, but I often say to him, wouldn't it be? I just love a little sliver of his mind, because how he can collect all that information about natural history, World War II aircrafts, and everything, just pull it out of thin air, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible to see him work. But he isn't here today, and he did send me off before I went on a mission. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, he said that he wanted me to go after wildcats. I did keep my eyes open, but they are incredibly rare, incredibly elusive, and I failed. I did try, but there we go. That's what happens with wildlife. But he did ask me to bring him back some poo. And he doesn't know this yet. I haven't spoken to him, so he might be watching live. If you are, Chris, there is a box here full of presents just for you. Now, one of them is a bit of a trick. So we'll go over these next week, and we'll see whether he can guess what this is. We'll give you a little preview, though. There we go. This is a bit of a bigger one. If you can see what kind of substrate is in there, it's a bit of a herbivorous animal, perhaps. And this one, very small, very small. There we go. We're going to quiz Chris on that next week, which is always fun. I mean, he'll get it right away, but I think the trick one might throw him a little bit. I hope. He can't get them all right all the time. Well, he does, but got to give it a go. So there's a present here waiting for you, Chris. I will leave it on your kitchen table. Anyway, enough of me rambling on. I think we should get on to today's quiz. So I'm quite excited by the quiz today. I think it's going to be a quite a good one. There's 3 different pictures here for you. Let's have a look at the first one. It is, of course, a foot of something, some kind. Now, you can get a point, I think, if you get the kind of animal that it is, kind of the generic group of them. But I think you get bonus points if you're able to tell me the exact species. I mean, I'd struggle with it. I think this would be that's a bit tricky, but you do get bonus points if you get the actual species. So let's go to the second photo. Remember this one, it's kind of blue. Oh, this gives a little bit more away about what kind of animal it is. Look at that kind of dense feathering. The water droplets might give it away. And of course, the way that those feet are placed at the bottom of the animal, and the way that animal is standing. I say animal, I mean, you can clearly see feathers, so it is a bird. The way that the bird is standing, and there's bright orange toes. So let's go to the next one. Yeah, I think that one kind of gives it away, the type of animal. I hope so, anyway. And if you can guess what exact species that might be, then put it in the comments, and we will come back to that a little bit at the end. So remember those three pictures. We'll go over them a little bit as well. Yeah, it's quite cool. They're cool. I like these birds. I'm going to geek out on them a little bit later. I'm really excited about it. But anyway, enough of me talking. I think we should go over to Birds of Poole Harbour, who are, well, they've done some fantastic conservation work in reintroducing ospreys into the south of England. And it was a story that I think gripped all of self-isolating bird club. I found myself every day, every hour, trying to look at this live camera to see the progress of CJ7, whether a male did or didn't return. And I think it was something that we all connected over. So without any kind of hesitation, I think we should go over to Paul Morton, who works at Birds of Poole Harbour, to tell us a little bit about the story, the overview, and where it's at now and the hopes for next year.
So spring 2020 was a very different spring for all of us, but a very special one, certainly for me and my family. We were expecting an exciting spring for our Osprey project, but we hadn't really anticipated what was going to happen in terms of the whole country being in a lockdown and not having any direct connection to nature. We set up the fundraiser last winter to provide a portal to see what's happening with our Osprey project this spring, with the thought of hoping to engage people with nature, but little did we know at the time that it was going to become such a focal point for so many people at such a stressful and worrying time. It was stunning, and CJ7 really brought a warmth into our house, and it brought me and my family closer together. We watched it every morning. We watched her connection to the harbour and to the nest evolve and grow. We saw her bringing sticks. We saw her laying her eggs, and it was a magical moment for all of us to be able to experience this as a nation and as a community, to witness history being made.
One of the hidden treasures in the area is the work that's being done by Birds of Poole Harbour to reintroduce ospreys and get them breeding in the area again. And the Osprey webcam project has proved to be a particularly inspirational part of that. It's given me some real insights into how ospreys behave, given me some genuine new perspectives on this impressive bird of prey. The problem with it is it's entirely addictive. Once you've seen that glorious full colour live footage of an osprey flying in, maybe with a stick, or a fish in its claws, you've seen how it lays the branch into the nest, how it makes itself comfortable, how it eats its prey, you'll want to watch it again.
Watching the web camera this spring and seeing CJ7 embarking on the very beginnings of what we hope is going to be a long and fruitful journey for her, and sharing in the collective anticipation of that experience with thousands of other people was, quite frankly, nothing short of a sheer privilege. And that's not just because she provided us with a reason to get up in the morning, excited for the day ahead, and hopeful for what the future might hold in what for many was a very dark time, but she also provided us with some unique, brand new scientific insights into the breeding behaviour of her species.
During lockdown, the live Q&As was such a great way to start my day. Answering questions from people who are seeing ospreys for the first time on a live stream compared to people who've been watching them for years was really fascinating, because you've got this group of people come together who really care about ospreys returning to the south coast of England. You know, back in the 1950s, when ospreys were first returning to Scotland, we saw people come together to protect the nest then, led by George Waterston of the RSPB. This Operation Osprey came together to protect them as a returning species, and that needs to continue today because raptor persecution is still a problem.
during lockdown, when, you know, we couldn't get out to our birding patches to engage with those birds that we normally love seeing, especially in the springtime when they're all breeding, webcams really came to the fore because they allowed people from inside their houses to engage with pretty spectacular birds in an intimate way, you know, with those cameras looking into their nests. And they were a real hit on the South Isolating Bird Club broadcast that we did, weren't they?
We showed a lot of them, but I don't think there was any story that gripped the nation quite so much as CJ7. No. There haven't been breeding ospreys in the south of the UK for hundreds of years. So it's a project that's been going on for a couple of years now, and we were hoping that a male would turn up. We were watching intently, weren't we, day after day.
Day after day.
She was building the nest, she was displaying mating behaviours, and unfortunately it wasn't to be. A male didn't show up, but she connected us to one another.
Yeah.
She connected us to her and provided so many benefits to our mental health during lockdown. And also, it's not such bad news because she's displaying all that fantastic behaviour that when a male does turn up, potentially next year or the year after that, then chances are there's going to be breeding ospreys.
It's going to happen. And also, the other thing is that even when she gave up the nest and moved away, other birds showed up. We had nightjar churring on an osprey's nest. Tawny owl turned up as well.
Tawny owl, we did.
These web cameras are an absolute, you know, lifeline in some instances and provide enormous insight into behaviours that otherwise we could never see. They are absolutely fantastic. And next year, I can tell you one thing's for sure. The whole nation's eyes are going to be glued on that camera on CJ7's nest.
It's going to happen. I can feel it.
So what we all experienced together this spring and summer is the beginnings of recolonisation of osprey on the south coast. It's been a long process, and it is going to be a long process. These things don't happen overnight, but it's been amazing to be able to share that whole experience with you. We've had just under 1 million views through our different social media channels and our website of people wanting to engage and witness this historic event, and it's been stunning to be able to share that. We're in a strange period at the moment where we're losing species, we are losing habitats, and we are now having to work even harder than ever before to help reinstate, rejuvenate and regenerate all these different landscapes, and also by reintroductions. We're in an amazing place here on the south coast. We've got us doing osprey reintroduction, we've got our partners on the Isle of Wight doing the white-tailed sea eagles, there are beaver reintroduction plans for Dorset, you've got the white storks up at Net, and it's an exciting period. We're part of that process, so we hope that you're all ready, looking forward to next spring. We're sad to see CJ7 and our friends disappear, but it's going to be an exciting 2021 and we cannot wait.
So nice to go back and relive that story. I mean, what an amazing thing that totally kind of connected everyone together. So thank you so much to Paul and everyone at Birds of Poole Harbour, because that was just something that, you know, CJ7 just really kind of connected us, and I just felt really, you know, strongly about her, and fingers crossed for next year she'll be back, of course, hopefully, and maybe be breeding. Wouldn't it be amazing to have ospreys in the south of England? I mean, I live relatively close to Poole, just about an hour and a half down the road, and to be able to go and drive along and see ospreys in the harbour or in the water would just be so exciting. We need to really work at encouraging this biodiversity back. We know that we're one of the most nature depleted countries in the world, so we need to really work on these reintroductions, and the work that Birds of Poole Harbour and Poole have been doing is just instrumental in bringing those kind of species back. So thank you so much, and fingers crossed for next year. It's not all bad news, you know, like as we said, she did lay an egg. It's really positive. That is still progress. It is still a step forward. So we're moving in the right direction there, and it's all looking really good and really exciting. So fingers crossed next year we're gonna get a breeding male turn up, and he's gonna be a strapping osprey, catching lots of fish, lots of big fish to impress CJ7, and she'll you know, have a good look at him, and off they go. They'll do their thing. Anyway, I've gone off on another one again without Chris and I next to each other. I think we do go off on tangents more. It's good. We need one another to keep each other on track, but there we go. Anyway, I'm gonna start moving on to the soapbox now. Of course, this is a pretty important issue. We're talking about biodiversity loss just then, and the fact that we are one of the most nature depleted countries. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't species here of high abundance. And should they be here in high abundance? Well, not pheasants. Pheasants are a non-native species that we bring into the UK in their millions, millions and millions, about 53 million come in every single year, and there's a whole wealth of issues that come along with pheasant shooting. But what I want to do first is show you a video. This is from Nick Milton, and he discusses here the impact that pheasants have on our native amphibians, particularly adders.
Hello, my name's Nigel Hand. I'm a UK adder expert, and today we're in the Malvern Hills on the area of outstanding natural beauty, looking for adders, but also looking into the issues of pheasant predation on adders. You may not know this, but between 47 and 60 million pheasants are released into the UK countryside. And I believe that the pheasant is contributing to the decline of the UK adder. In many areas of the UK, the adder is now extinct. Here we are at the side of the road, away from the shoot, and we're finding many dead roadkill pheasants. Thousands of birds are killed on the road and are lost to the shoot. They're actually dispersing away while the shooting is on and end up on sensitive wildlife areas with adders. We've now moved on to my study site, and I have a number of tins and refuges which the adders and other reptiles use. But before we look at those, I'd like to point out on the bank here signs of pheasant. This is a dust bath or a lying up area where pheasants regularly sit. Now I see a lot of these across the reptile areas. Both the species seem to coexist in the same areas. So this is evidence that pheasants do come in here, and it's very close to where my reptile refuges are. So the pheasants are in here. Okay, let's have a look under this one. No. Oh, little baby. There she is. I'm going to be very gentle here and pick him up. Okay, this is a little small baby adder, little female. You can see how small she is. It's a worm-like snack for a predatory bird like a pheasant. We've got a 5p piece on the top of the map there, which illustrates how small this snake actually is. Now, pheasants will actually attack full-grown adders. I've seen a 41cm female attacked but not predated by a pheasant, but certainly a snake or a lizard of this size will be swallowed. Okay, we've got an adult female adder here. Now I'm going to quickly just show you this. You can see on her back, just around there is an old puncture wound. Now we do come across a lot of snakes and slow worms and lizards which have got wounds, and there is a very good chance a lot of these are avian and pheasant related. Snakes are pecked at regularly. Birds are one of the greatest predators of our adders, but it shows the conflicts these animals come into with these animals. I'm going to let her go on her way. Okay, so in my lifetime I've seen the decline of adders on sites I've known and extinctions in actual counties. I have two boys. Are they going to see adders into the future? And will their children see adders into the future? Now we know climate change, habitat mismanagement and disturbance are all factors leading to the decline. But the unregulated release of up to 60 million non-native birds into the UK countryside is the biggest factor in my opinion. This is going to lead to the extinction of adders if we do not regulate it and do something about this.
So that was a film that was produced by Nick Milton, and that was Nigel Hands there, giving a really interesting overview. It's a connection that I don't think many people think of. It's a connection that I didn't make until quite recently. But of course, it's absolutely devastating. When there's 57 million pheasants and partridges released, non-native birds released into the countryside, of course it's going to have a devastating impact on the wildlife that's already there. There's recent reports show that adders could be extinct by 2032, and in surveyed sites, 90% of them had 10 or fewer adult adders remaining, when there should be plenty more. And of course, there's lots of different contributing factors to the decline of adders, habitat destruction, the change of climate. But of course, when you're adding 57 million game birds into a place where they shouldn't be, of course that's going to have a really, really big impact. And it's something that I think, we come face to face with all the time. When you're driving through the countryside, there are pheasants and partridges absolutely everywhere. When I was up in Scotland, the stark thing for me that I found really hard was that there wasn't any wildlife. In places where there should be red kites, with places where there should have been buzzards and more eagles and everything else, deer, it just wasn't there. But the one thing that was pheasants. There were pheasants absolutely everywhere, and the pheasant shooting season started yesterday on the 1st of October. So of course all of these birds have been released out. But there's so many different issues when it comes to pheasant shooting. One of them, to start from the beginning, some of them, are brought in as eggs. Some of them are, they predominantly come in, I think, from Spain, France and Belgium. They're imported over. Some come as adults, and they're not initially released, of course, straight into the wild, our wild. They are kind of kept in these absolutely awful conditions. And I'm just going to read this out to you because this is something that I found quite shocking, actually. So game birds are not raised as wild birds. They are instead mass farmed in the same way as intensively reared farm animals, yet they are not protected by humane slaughter laws, and many won't be eaten as food. So the government admitted that over 25 million pheasants and partridges eggs were imported into the UK between the 1st of May 2018 and the 30th of April 2019. These birds are farmed and shot in the name of sport, and many are wounded and left to suffer or killed as roadkill. But according to the game shooting industry, less than half of the birds released each year are actually killed by shooters. Many of them die on roads around the shooting states, causing a lot of damage to vehicles and motorists. And others die due to disease exposure that is prevalent in our British environment, that they, of course, are not evolved to deal with, they're not evolved to cope with. And in our environment, it's a little bit warmer as well, and they're not able to survive very well in our climate. And in the UK, the minimum standards exist for the protection of animals bred or kept for farming. However, it does not apply to animals intended for the use in competitions, shows, cultural or sporting events or activities. That essentially means that it denies birds farmed for the game shooting industry even the basic welfare protection given to birds that are farmed for food, despite similar rearing conditions. So they are essentially kind of hatched in these barren cages. Egg-laying hens have been brought in from the EU. Normally, with chickens, they have enrichment. That's one of the laws, is that they have to have nest boxes. Some intensive farming, of course, is incredibly awful and horrendous, but it's better conditions than often many of these pheasants and partridges have, because they don't have to have any sort of nest boxes or size requirements whatsoever. So the welfare of these birds is unbelievably horrendous. It's just, something I find really hard to wrap my head around, that we bring in these birds, their welfare conditions are non-existent. They're released into an environment that they're not adept to cope with. And of course, they are going to naturally have a horrendous impact on our natural ecology. Why wouldn't they? We're releasing 57 million of them. And, up until, even now, there is no independent, unbiased review on how the release of these birds impacts the native ecology. There's never been looked into independently, never been looked into on an unbiased scientific review. It hasn't happened yet, and that's something that World Justice were asking for last year. And you can go and see kind of the results and what happened with that online. But Anyway, that was just an issue that I wanted to bring to your attention, because of course it's a really big thing at the moment. With the start of the season, you'll start seeing adult pheasants and partridges around quite a lot, and it's important to understand the impact that they are having on our environment. And we need to talk cohesively, I think. You know, we need to talk with the shooting fraternity, we need to talk with the farmers, because it's having an impact when those two pheasants come in and they eat the seed of the farm and decrease the yield of the farmers, and then they go into sites of specific conservation success, and then they fertilise soils which shouldn't be fertilised. So it needs to be, it's affecting all these areas because there are just so many birds, and we need to have a collective conversation about how we can manage this situation better, for the sake of native wildlife and our ecology of our environment, and for also the welfare of these poor game birds, which are kept in the most hideous conditions. I've seen footage of pheasant, I guess you call them farms, and I have no words. It's absolutely horrendous, beyond anything you could possibly imagine. So, we need to address it. Anyway, on from the soapbox. One thing actually I did want to bring your attention to, slightly soapboxy, but we'll move on quickly, is of course the petition about the badger cull that came out relatively recently. Now at the moment we're doing pretty well, and there's 33,512 signatures so far, and the petition is to stop culling immediately and start the widespread vaccination of badgers now. Of course, we know that the issues with the badger cull, we've spoken about this previously on SIBC. We know that there is no scientific warranting to be going out and killing these badgers in these numbers. It's unethical, it is cruel, it is not working in kind of the fight against TB. It doesn't have a standpoint. So we need to look at other methods, and vaccination is really important. So please, 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 the link is below. Please do sign up to this petition. We need these numbers to rise and get over to 100,000, which would be great, because then it can be debated in Parliament, and hopefully we can make some headway on that. It is 100% possible. We can make these changes, and every signature makes a big difference. And if you've already signed it, then get sharing. Hit that button, and hopefully we can keep boosting that number, and we'll be able to help badgers as well. But anyway, enough of the soapbox. I feel like I've been ranting for quite some time now, and on to something which is absolutely adorable, I have to say. We're going to go over to Jack. If you remember last week, he told us about his third favourite dinosaur. This week, he's back to tell us about his second.
This is my second favourite dinosaur, the Triceratops. Reasons why? Because it's got those horns, the frill, the little hump, and that tail, and the forelegs. It's a plant eater. And where does it live? It lives in Canada and the USA. It eats plants, and it's probably hunted down by giant theropod dinosaurs. Of course, it would have ate conifers on the floor because it was the Cretaceous. And it goes on and on and on until the volcano struck and it died. And then all we've got left are the bones from all the other periods.
I love his t-shirt. Little legend. I have to say that is 100% true. I mean, Triceratops, what a dinosaur. And I almost wore a Triceratops top today. I really should have done that in hindsight, because it was a Triceratops on a dance floor, which was really great, by Koala Street Art, which you can find online. It was I got sent in these brilliant t-shirts of dinosaurs doing the best things. So I think, Jack, you'd like that quite a lot. And Triceratops, I have to say, top dinosaur. I think it's in my top 3 actually. I've always loved Triceratops. I used to have one of those plastic toys that I'd always hang around with. Really, really smart animals. I wanted to just give you a bit of a book review, a book suggestion. I know Chris is a big fan of the book lists and everything, so I wanted to add one that I've been reading recently I find really interesting. For me, I really love how the mind works and how animals are intelligent and how they evolved to be that way. And it's really fascinating to figure out how different types of intelligence evolved over different animal groups at different times. It's something, normally, a trait can evolve and then that species will evolve even further and that trait will be continued out. Sometimes it evolves independently and evolves in different animal groups when it is really beneficial. And intelligence is an example of that. So this is a book here. This is called Other Minds, The Octopus and the Evolution of Intelligent Life. It was written by Peter Godfrey-Smith. It actually won the Science Book Prize in 2017. It was shortlisted by the Royal Society. And I'm just going to read you the back here. You can see, look at that. It's got a great cover, isn't it? Oh, no, this way. Great covers. I'm just going to read you the back here. Other Minds tells a bold new story of how nature became aware of itself, a story that largely occurs in the ocean where animals first appeared. Tracking the mind's fitful development from unruly clumps of seaborne cells to the first evolved nervous system in ancient relatives of jellyfish, it explores the incredible evolutionary journey of cephalopods, things like octopus and squid. But what kind of intelligence do they possess? How did the octopus, a solitary creature with little social life, become so smart? What is it like to have 8 tentacles that are so packed with neurons that they virtually think for themselves? By tracing the question of inner life back to its roots and comparing human beings with our most remarkable animal relatives, Godfrey-Smith casts crucial new light on the octopus's mind and our very own. I have to say, I'm halfway through it at the moment and I'm really, really enjoying it. It's really fascinating. You know, we don't often think as cephalopods, octopuses to be, you know, super intelligent because they're so different from us. You know, often an indicator of high intelligence is the fact that an animal is social. If it has a large social group and has to remember other individuals and how to communicate with those individuals, then that is often indicative of high intelligence. However, octopuses aren't so social. So, you know, how do we tell about their intelligence here? And this reminds me of a really great story, actually. I'm just going to tell you it now because I think it's really cool. So there was an aquarium. I can't remember where it was in the world. I think it might have even been Australia, actually, that had an octopus and obviously all the fish and everything. And the staff there noticed that the fish were disappearing each morning when they'd come in, and they weren't sure what was going on. They thought perhaps somebody was sneaking into the aquarium and taking fish out, perhaps for private collections or, you know, the tropical fish trade or something like that. And this was going on for over a really long time, and it kept kind of increasing. It was going on for months, and every day they'd come in, more fish would be taken, and they were becoming incredibly confused by it. So they invested in a camera, and they put a camera up in the corner of the back area of the aquarium, and they left it running for a few nights, and they came back to see what was going on. And what they found was that their octopus had actually been opening up its own tank, going out into other tanks, taking the fish, and just before the staff would arrive in the morning, whatever, I don't know what time they would arrive, say 6 a.m. But about 5:58 in the morning, it would be able to kind of judge the time and know when to go back in its tank, and it would close everything up as if nothing had happened. They are so intelligent and so smart, and this kind of book is all about how they came to be that way. So if you can kind of get a copy of it, I really would recommend it. I'm really enjoying it if you're interested in kind of the minds of animals and the evolution and how it all works, and particularly something that's kind of a species that is almost so alien from ourselves. It's a really good insight. So there we are. I'm going to recommend that, add that to the book list. So I think now, I don't know, are we anywhere? I think we do. We have penguins. So the live camera has started over in Australia. So we're going to go over to Phillip Island. Here we go. Look at that. So not much activity going on at the moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to, zooming in, anything? No, the little penguins haven't started coming in yet, but we will keep an eye on it. So the sun is, of course, setting in Australia at the moment. So this is the largest colony of little penguins in the world, and you can watch this every day, really. It's a 30-minute free live camera that looks across the beach. It's gone a little bit blurry there. Don't know who's manoeuvring the camera, but if you know anyone listening in Australia, there we go. Zooming in a little bit more. So you can watch this live, of course, every day and see lots of penguins. Have a look. Look. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness, look at them waddling off the beach. A big old day of foraging and now they are all coming back to their burrows. Oh my goodness. You know, penguins, they're just so great to watch, aren't they? Just kind of like waddling around. Oh my goodness, they are absolutely fantastic. Fantastic birds. Oh my goodness. So, of course, they are little penguins, and I'll give you extra points on the quiz if you're able to tell me where on the scale of size these penguins might lie in comparison to the other 18 official species of penguin that we have in the world. They are, you know, as their name suggests, the smallest species of penguin that we've got. We do have everything from these small little penguins to everything up to the emperor penguins, which are the largest species of penguin that reside in the centre of Antarctica. These, of course, live in a slightly warmer environment. They are in Australia at the moment, and they live kind of around the coast of Australia and also around the coast of New Zealand as well. But if you are to kind of have a look at little penguins a little bit closer, maybe Google a picture of them, they're also kind of famously called blue penguins too. And that's because on their back, they actually have these kind of iridescent, kind of bluish feathers. Of course, they're not actually blue at all. It's something called structural colour, which I know Chris and I have spoken about before. It's the way that the light interacts with the feather. As the feathers evolve, as the feathers develop from the young, they have these kind of tiny water bubbles within the feather, microscopic. And as the feather develops, that water evaporates, leaving holes kind of within the feather. And it's how the light comes and bounces down into those holes and bounces back off the feather and enters into our eye, which makes us see blue. Whereas actually it doesn't even exist. But they do have blue backs when you look at them. So they are called blue penguins. They also have the nickname of fairy penguins too. I'm not entirely sure where that came from. Maybe because their wings look blue, like, you know, like a fairy perhaps. I'm not entirely sure the evolution of that. But look at them all go. It's amazing, isn't it, to see them all coming in like this. They've all been really busy foraging because in October is when they lay their eggs. So they'll lay about 2 eggs, I believe, in their burrows. And it'll take quite, a good 40 or so days before those eggs hatch. So they're kind of right in the beginning of their breeding season. Of course, they want to plump up and eat as many fish as they possibly can so that they can sustain themselves through what is going to be an energetically expensive process as well. But they're incredibly streamlined penguins. They're really well built because, of course, when they enter the water, they have got there's a lot of momentum, particularly, Antarctic penguins that dive off of quite high areas. Sometimes you see them kind of literally just springing themselves off of icebergs or cliff tops into often quite rough water. And of course, around the coast of Australia, it's quite rough too. So they need to be slimlined in order to deal with that momentum. And you can see how they're bending down there to hop over those rocks. They're lowering their neck, and they've got an incredibly flexible neck that they can elongate. And you can see them do this. We can see them do it now, but you can also see them do it when they are vocalizing. Look at them coming in. Oh my goodness. It does just make you smile, doesn't it? I'd love to be stood up there. Look at those people. They've got a great view. We've got a pretty good view there ourselves, haven't we? Considering we're watching this from around the world, it's some pretty amazing insight. Look at them. Oh, it's so funny waddling around like that. Absolutely brilliant. There's so many of them. So of course they live in temperatures where about the water is around 13 degrees C to 20 degrees C. So they kind of prefer the warmer climate. I don't blame them. I'd rather be in 20 degrees C, I think, than the waters of Antarctica. But there we go. They're really well adapted, of course, those penguins, to living in those cold environments. They've got 2 different types of feathers. They've got their downs feathers to keep them really nice and insulated, and then their waterproof feathers on top as well. These ones also have those types of feathers, but they don't need to be quite so well insulated. But these little penguins, they mainly feed in inshore waters around the coast and around their breeding islands. And they'll go to continental shelves as well, where there will be lots of kind of nutrients coming in from the different currents. And they'll be able to make the most of that influx of fish that is making the most of that nutrient. So that is why they're located on Phillip Island, I believe, because they're actually quite close to the continental shelf, if I remember correctly. But they are kind of breeding pairs which mean, they're monogamous. They're seasonally monogamous, which means for the year that they are together. And they are incredibly loyal to one another. This is one of the reasons I think people really love penguins so much, is because they have kind of relationships, I suppose, a little bit similar like our own. We're kind of monogamous species. They're a monogamous species too, and they really kind of have the most strong pair bonds. And I always find it amazing, how they find one another in a crowd. But it's all about the smells and the sound, and they're able to recognize each other. I suppose they'd find it hard in a crowd of humans to understand how we recognize each other, I suppose. So I always like to think of it the other way around, just as much as thinking about how they might find it difficult to recognize each other. You can see a few more just coming in there. Oh my goodness, what a treat, what a special thing to be. Yeah, look at that. So these males will search for mates often by kind of advertising outside the nest area, and after pairing up with each other, they will continue to call, and that helps with pair bonding. And the more vocalizations, the more rituals they can do, the stronger their bond will be. And during courtships, both birds will stand, and like I said, they've got that really flexible neck. They'll stand upright like this. And they'll move their necks back and forth. You often see this with king penguins, actually. They have got the most amazing necks, and they kind of like ripple like this. Oh, look at them all. They're like little tuxedos. I love it. They're just so entertaining to watch because they're so clumsy on land. You see them, they're having to really watch where they step, particularly when they're coming over those rocks, because they do fall over quite a bit. But it's pretty amazing, and they're really kind of defensive of their burrows as well, as you would be. I mean, penguins are, a lot of penguins. You've got things like genteel Adelie penguin. Adelie penguins are notorious for stealing pebbles. You have to keep a close eye on an Adelie because they have kind of a different nest system than these little penguins here. Adelie penguins have kind of piles of little rocks that they build up into kind of a dome shape, and they sit inside. And the nests are the perfect distance away from the neighbour, so that the neighbour can't stretch its neck out and steal your stones. So if you were to go out and measure the distance between a Adelie penguin nest, you'll find that it's specifically further enough away that the neighbouring penguin can't steal your stones. However, when you go off to find food, or you go to stretch your legs or something, you can't trust your neighbour, because they will inevitably come and pinch your stones, and then they'll get told off. But these are a species which live in burrows, and they will defend those burrows, of course, especially right now in the season where they're going to be starting to lay their eggs, which is pretty amazing, I have to say. It's great to be able to see them. But of course, you can watch these every day as much as you like. Around 9 a.m. is the best. So you can kind of start tuning in at 9 a.m. All the action tends to happen kind of a little bit later on. So between about, 9:30, 9:45 is when you start seeing sites like this, when they're all coming in, and you get 30 minutes, and you can find them at penguins.org.au. That's penguins, penguins.org.au. And you can follow them on Twitter at Phillip Island MP. Or yes, that's on Twitter at Phillip Island MP, PhillipIslandNP on Twitter. Which I'm going to follow it immediately. I don't follow it at the moment. I'm going to, because this is just bringing me so much joy watching these come in. And you can also donate as well to help to the conservation of these incredible animals, and you can do that at penguinfoundation.org.au/donate. That's penguinfoundation.org.au/donate. What an amazing privilege to be able to see such incredible birds. I mean, like penguins, we just have such an affinity for them. As I said earlier, we've got 18 species, all kinds of varying in size and behaviour and strategies, living in warm environments to cold environments. But sadly, 10 of those 18 species are listed as threatened. And many are becoming vulnerable and endangered. And little penguins, because they live in an accessible area, the conservation is really active on them. They are, of course, in decline, like many of penguins are. But their conservation is really important, and we're able to monitor them closely because of the environment they live in. It's difficult to conserve and monitor the penguins, such as the king penguins or the emperor penguins in particular, because they live in such a hostile environment that we really struggle to survive for long periods of time and to monitor them effectively and to get an overview of what the population is doing. So we need to kind of all the conservation work as much conservation work on penguins as possible, because of course they live in a place in the bottom of the world in Antarctica where lots of ice is melting as a direct result of climate change and global warming. So it's a lot we need to do to build awareness about the issues that these species are facing, and to kind of help motivate us, I think, to see these penguins, to connect with them like we are now with these little penguins. We're loving watching them waddling around. We're gaining so much affection and affinity for them, and hopefully that is motivation that, you know, maybe we'll kind of think about how we can adapt and change our behaviour so that we can better the environment, not just for these birds, but for ourselves too. So make sure you keep an eye on this, on the little penguins in Australia, because what a view that is. It's such a privilege to put them swimming. Oh my goodness. I could just watch this for hours. I feel like the SIBC this morning might go on all day, well, until the sun sets in Australia at least, because I'm gonna want to keep watching this for as long as possible. But I promise I won't. I'm sure many of you have got to get off to work or meetings or anything, so we'll scoot on. But we'll come back to the penguins if anything goes on. So we're gonna I think do the quiz now. I think many of you have actually guessed what might be going on there with the quiz. So let's have a little look at the first image. We got that coming up. Yes, there we go. That's the first image there. It is a little bit tricky. This one. This is the foot of an Adelie penguin. Can we see the photo of an Adelie penguin? I love these little guys. These are the ones that I was saying that are notorious rock stealers, rock thieves, and stealing pebbles from one another. Very distinctive Adelie penguins. They're quite small on the penguin scale, larger, of course, than the little penguins, but they are very, very tiny, and they're very distinctive with that kind of white stripe around the eye there. So that's how you kind of tell an Adelie. Let's have a look at the second image. Sorry, there's a phone ringing, if you can hear that, but a little cough soon. So, of course, this is another penguin. This is a different species of penguin. Let's see, did anybody get this one right? Let's have a little look. Oh, we did. So Simon got this one right, and Diplodocus also got this right on YouTube as well. Morgan, I think Alicia got this right, and Ross too. So let's have a look who these feet belong to. It is a gentoo penguin. This is my favourite species of penguin. They are very vocal. You can see there the neck raise. As I said, when they're quite vocal, they raise their neck. But I just think they're beautiful. The eye markings there is all speckled and absolutely sparkling, and they look fantastic in the gorgeous pristine white snow with that eye marking and that very vivid bill colour there as well. So well done to everyone who got gentoo. These are quite tricky, getting the species for the penguin feet. Some of them are quite obscure. But let's go to the next one. Hopefully some more people will have got this third image right. Yes, here we go. So this is a brush-tail penguin. You can see it's kind of a brush-tail because of the type of tail it's got at the back. And you can see it's got its 1 foot up there. Got a dark foot. Let's see who got this one right. We've got Betty, you've got Michelle, Maz got this right, Morgan too, Alec and Anise, also Simon and Dryacus on YouTube too got this right. And of course, it is the foot of the one and only king penguin. There we go. Very, very distinctive. King penguins live kind of on the islands around Antarctica. So not to be confused with emperor penguins. Emperor penguins are much larger. They do have kind of similar coloration, but king penguins are much smaller, and they don't live actually on the main Antarctica continent themselves. They live out on the kind of the surrounding islands there too. So there we go. That's our penguin quiz. Well done to everybody who got that one right. It was a little bit tricky, I think. If you got penguin, like really good, get a point. But if you got the species correct too, bonus yourself a couple extra, because that's tricky, particularly the first one there, because they look amazing like dinosaur feet, don't they? So it goes really well with the video of the Triceratops we watched earlier. So let's go on and do some birthdays. Lots of birthdays today. So we've got Elia is 8 on Sunday. Happy birthday to you. Really enthusiastic young naturalist who recently saved a bumblebee by bringing it a steady supply of flowers and made friends with it. Thank you so much for looking after that bumblebee. That's really fantastic. And I hope you have a fantastic 8th birthday. Also, happy birthday to Charlotte Hearn. Birthday on the 1st of October. So a message sent in to us from Rob. very happy birthday to you, Charlotte. Hope you've had a fantastic birthday. Also, Lorraine Fluz wants to wish her daughter Charlotte a happy birthday. Turned 6 last Sunday, had a lovely afternoon at the Wild Heart Trust feeding the goats. That's fantastic. The Wild Heart Trust is, of course, a trust that Chris and I are very, strongly associated to. It's the rescue facility of big cats and lemurs over on the Isle of Wight. It's a fantastic place to go and connect. It's fantastic that you were able to go there, and I'm glad you enjoyed feeding the goats. I love the goats. Are great fun. They're very naughty. I've spent many time with those goats, playing with them. They're a lot of fun. It's a great place to go. So if you're on the island, head down to the Wild Heart Trust. But a very happy birthday to you, Charlotte. Also, Bev Benny wants to wish her son Max a very happy birthday for yesterday. So happy birthday, Max. Also, Wendy Cooper, happy birthday yesterday. Your husband Mike sent us in a message. And so, yeah, very happy birthday to you. I hope you've had a fantastic day. Also, very happy birthday to Angela, whose birthday was on the 30th of September. We got a message from your husband, John, so I hope you had a fantastic birthday. Also, Ben Rumsby, happy birthday to you for tomorrow. You're going to be 14 years old, very keen birdwatcher and naturalist. We'll be out all weekend at the Essex Birdwatching Society Big County Birdwatch. That sounds like fun. That does sound good. What a great way to spend a birthday. If you're in Essex, and maybe Google the Big County Birdwatch and get involved with that, because that sounds like a great way to be out this weekend and surveying the birds in your local area. So, yeah, enjoy that. Very happy birthday to you, Ben. Fantastic. And also one more, Wendy Pritchard, 65 tomorrow on Wednesday. So very happy birthday to everyone. Lots of birthdays there to get through. Whoever else's birthday it is, hope you have a fantastic day. Let's see, what else have we got going on? Let me see. Well, I'm doing things with mixed technology today. You might have noticed I've got half the number of screens that I'd normally have. The printer is currently not working, so I don't have anything printed out. And I'm also inside because of the torrential rain that was outside. But the moment it started shining with sun, which is, of course, the way that things go. So you have to excuse me being inside today and being a little bit all over the place with the lack of technology that we've got going on at the moment. So just going to start wrapping up. One announcement to make is that, well, we're very excited to say that we're going to be doing a self-isolating bird club calendar. Yes, very excited about that. This isn't going to be images that are, in any way done by the professionals, or you might be a professional photographer, I don't know, but this is going to be images that represent the Self-Isolating Bird Club. So we're going to be going through all the images that you've submitted over the last few months, the favourites, the best stories, the characters that we've got to know, and we're going to be putting it all into a calendar. But of course, if you would like to submit photos to us, then please do. You can do that with this email address. So 2021 calendar at sibird.club. That's 2021 calendar at sibird.club. So please send it in, all your photos there. If you post them on the Facebook group or anything else, we do monitor it and we'll hopefully get round and see everything. But, sometimes things might get missed. So make sure if you like to be in the calendar, and we'd love you to be, please do email your images along. So it's going to be a representation of the group and all the fantastic stories. And it's going to be a way of making a little bit of money that's going to go towards a wildlife charity. So we're on the case and we're going to be putting that together. If you have any other ideas about live cameras or any stories that you'd like us to know about, you can also send in your suggestions to us at submissions@sibird.club as well. That's submissions@sibird.club as well. Next week, what have we got coming up? Well, Chris and I are going to be back together again, the dynamic duo. We're also going to be talking about something really special in this box here, which was sent to us very kindly by Mark Constantine, who Mark is the founder of Lush Cosmetics, and Simon is his son, who works an amazing job creating perfume. I actually worked for Lush for about a year and a half, and I have to say they are one of the most incredible, innovative, modern companies that I think every company should just aspire to be. And there is a reason we're going to go and speak about Lush. They've got some new perfumes coming out, and I have to say, just smelling in the box, it smells absolutely amazing. I'm sniffing these all day. But there are environmental stories that go behind all of their perfumes. Really, really powerful stories from different cultures, different places around the world that highlight issues of environmental concern, and also promote sustainability and promote kind of ethical, I suppose, ethical ingredients. So we're going to be sharing some of the stories behind the ingredients in their perfumes and talking a little bit about Lush, a little bit about the incredible conservation work that they do. I have to say, you might recognise this. This is my makeup bag here. I'm a little bit Lush obsessed. It's a fantastic company. So we'll be going over that next week as well. And there's also going to be some brilliant wildlife too. But for now, we're going to leave you. I'm not sure. We might be leaving you with peregrines. We might be leaving you with penguins. I'm not sure which one. We are, yes. So we'd like to thank Claire Whitehouse for the calendar idea, one of our viewers. So thank you very much, Claire, for sending us the idea of doing a calendar, because it's an absolute fantastic idea. And we're really excited to be kind of getting on and doing that. We are going to leave you with the peregrines, obviously incredibly exciting. Those chicks just hatched a few hours ago now. So keep an eye out for that peregrine cam in Melbourne, Australia. Again, you can find that under birdlife.org.au. If you Google the Victorian Peregrine Project, you can follow those chicks as they grow. And also remember to keep an eye out on that penguin cam. But that's it from me for today, and we will see you next week at 9 a.m. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Sorry about the technical issues, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. See you later. Bye.